What's up, everyone? Welcome back. This week's episode, we have on Bryant McKinnie. Bryant was an All-American, Pro Bowl, and Super Bowl champion offensive tackle, left tackle. Had a 12-year career with the Vikings, the Ravens, and then the Dolphins for a season before he retired. Most notably, he was an All-American twice at the University of Miami. He was on the 2001 The U team, one of the best ever, where he was a captain. And Bryant talks about all of it, everything from JUCO to get to Miami, all the way through the NFL. So, without any further ado, here is our conversation with Mount McKinnie. Brian, thanks so much for taking the time to come on. How are you doing today?
Doing pretty good. Thank you for having me.
Man, the honor is ours, man. You're the first star from the U we've had on, so it's about time we've had someone from University of Miami come on here and talk about some Canes football.
Oh, shit, I'm glad to be here.
Just speaking of the U, though, I mean, of course, we got to get into that 0-1 team, but Manny Diaz, I mean, the fact that you get a coach that can be somewhere, he's with Temple for a hot minute, then comes back. It's just kind of a crazy story that unfolded, but how do you feel about Miami having, their defensive coordinator who had done so well there come in and replace Rick as the head coach?
He was doing a great job on the defensive side and got those guys to rally around him and believe in his system. So now I feel like him being able to take over the whole team, I feel like the offensive guys were already looking at him like, maybe he can come over and inspire us. So now he's the head coach. So, and he's the Miami guy. So that's probably a dream of his. It's been a dream of his. And he's bringing back some of that young, fun energy that Miami's known for. So, I like a lot of the things I've been watching, like on their social media, like Instagram and stuff. They have videos and they show just different things of them having like tug of wars and competing. And then I just heard that he went to the Nike football camp and took over and had like a real party, had some beers and took over the coaches and everything. He took over. So he's bringing that real Miami energy back, and I feel like it's great.
So do you think that a lot of the guys that you've played with, and I'm sure on some level stay in touch with, do you guys kind of all feel that way, that this is probably a really good thing, him coming in?
It's coming off as exciting right now, and we're just looking forward to seeing how the season plays out. Everybody is happy that he's taken over, and it's a few of us that are in a group chat, so we kind of all voice our opinions about just different things. And that group chat started, I think, when towards the end of Al Golden.
Mm-hmm.
So
been going on for a while, huh?
Yeah, it's been going on for a little minute. So it's we're all in there and during football season, everybody's voicing their opinions in the chat and things like that. So
that's cool. Now, another thing in the news, of course, is just now I think we got some defensive backs at the Combine performing. Do you have any big stories thinking back to, what your experience was like going out there and showcasing yourself in front of all the scouts?
What's crazy is it was a thing for us back then that we didn't do anything at the Combine.
Really?
So University of Miami guys, they didn't really like us too much, but they liked us. But we didn't perform anything there at the Combine. Nothing. So we all stuck together. And I remember even they had a meeting. They were like, yeah, and if you're a certain school that comes here who doesn't want to do anything, that basically was talking about us. We know you're talking about us, but we will wait till we performed at our school.
The pro day.
Because we don't know if all the coaches are going to be able to make it to your school. So that's why you're here now. And we would go and we would take our measurements and do all that stuff. But it was a tradition at the time. Nobody performed up there. And I think maybe too because we were winning a lot too back then. We knew that you're going to come see us. So we didn't perform. We didn't. We showed up, but we didn't we didn't do any 40-yard dash. We didn't lift weights. We didn't do nothing. We just got checked out. We allowed you to do the physicals and check out our bodies to make sure we didn't have no injuries. And we sat in the meetings, but we didn't participate in any event.
You know what? I was looking to see if I could find numbers or a clip from.
No, you can't. Because we never did it.
Now it makes sense.
I don't know when they started. I don't know when the guys from University of Miami started. Probably I don't know when they started participating, but we didn't participate.
That's so weird.
Everybody come to our pro day. You're going to come.
Oh, they were going to go to those pro days. Are you kidding me?
I mean, especially back then. So that was the mindset, and I don't know who started it, but we all knew. When we went up there, they were you don't perform. Nobody does anything, nothing. You wait till you do it here in Miami. You've been training here. You're going to do it here. So
That's so funny. Now that you say that, I'm going through my mind. I'm like, oh my, none of these guys. It's just like I never thought about the fact that they were all Miami guys, but all these guys, I never. That's
Yeah.
too
So I don't
weird.
even know when this started because like I'm looking, the NFL, their Instagram page, they show like the combines and all these guys running. It's like I'm seeing some of the Miami guys now, and I'm like, when did they start like going back? I guess because maybe I don't know because the school isn't like they wasn't winning as much or something, so they probably feel like we got to just do it. But at the time, it was just a thing where they were like, no, don't perform.
That's wild. Wow, no kidding. That's
Yeah.
crazy. And the fact that you guys consistently all did it each year too. There was no one that broke, and that was like
the thing. So
yeah.
I can't. Now that's the thing is I want to find out what class broke it.
Yeah,
somebody's class broke that little tradition.
We'll be on the hunt for that too, because I'm curious myself to see who was the first one that went through. I want to talk a little bit about the U, right, and that 01 season. To name off some guys: Ed Reed, Clinton Portis, Andre Johnson, Jonathan Vilma, Jeremy Shockey. I mean, these guys yourself just revolutionized the way that college football is played. Can you talk a little bit about that 01 season and why it was so special?
Why it was so special is because the 2000 season where we thought we should have won a national championship, and the only time we were allowed on Florida State was that season. If they would have beat Oklahoma, we would have split the national championship with them because we lost only one game, the second game of the season to Washington in 2000, and then we beat Florida State, but they ended up still being able to go to the championship, and we beat Florida in the Sugar Bowl. So going into that following season, we just pretty much said we had to put destiny in our own hands, and we couldn't even afford to lose one game. So it was like our goal all year was like to be undefeated, and that way we'll for sure get in. And so that whole offseason was like a lot of like team bonding. The right tackle, Joaquin Gonzalez, we'd go to his house. We'd go to New Orleans to Ed's house. They was coming to Jersey with me. It was like a lot of just hanging outside of football. Because once you build that bond outside of football, like once you get on the field, you don't want to let your man like down, like your brother down. So that's kind of how it was for us. So
yeah, that's how great teams are made, right? Is on the bus in the locker room,
off the field too, like outside the locker room too, and like be friends outside. So we all kind of built that up, and what's funny is we're all like still like pretty close now.
Yeah,
and like majority of us still live here.
Yeah.
But so it came to all the off-season workouts, things like that, and then we really didn't mind competing against each other because we all felt like we were the best at our position. So coming into like the preseason, you had stuff like these magazines where you had the top positions, like O-line, we were number one O-line, I guess, in the nation, and our DBs were number one as well. And like so, other positions they might have been like 3 or whatever. So we kind of made jokes about that, but we all felt like we were the best. So in practice, we were like, feel like practice should be harder than the game. Like, how you let him do this and such that you're going against me every day, like things like that. So our goal was to be out by the fourth quarter, so the other guys like your Sean Taylors and your Antrell Rose, who are the backups, and the Kellen Winslows could get in and get some experience.
But how crazy is that? Your backups, your freshmen, like that team is literally the best college football team ever put together, man. I mean, I looked at some stats that said 38 players from that 01 team went pro, and of that, through the 2013 season, your team in 2001, they combined for 43 Pro Bowl trips. That is absurd.
That's good.
Now, did you know?
Because he recruited everybody.
Yeah. Now, did you know at the time, like, that you guys had something special? Or was it just like a couple of guys hanging out? You guys knew you were all really good at football, but did you know that this was, that something was brewing in the making? The fact that you guys 38 of you would go on to play in the National Football League.
No, what we had people like Edgerrin James and Bubba Franks and them coming back. And we would like look at them, and they would come back with new cards and stuff like that. We like, listen, we want to get this stuff too. Like, you know what I mean? And they would like give us little like jewels about just how it is in the NFL. It kind of make you feel like a little different about it. Like, it's just all football there. You don't have to worry about going to class. So back then we like, yeah, we don't got to go to class. We just football. But then it's like when you get there, it's like, okay, they explained it one way, but it's kind of different. You sound like you get off early, but you're there all day. I don't think we knew at the time. I think as we look back and when people got into their NFL careers and people were excelling, and like Jeremy Shockey as soon as he got in the league, had a breakout season, stuff like that. People started realizing like, hey, we're pretty good, like
Yeah, and he was your roommate, right?
Yeah, he was my roommate my senior year in college.
And looking at this too, I have a stat here as well. I mean, you yourself finished 8th overall in the Heisman and 2-time All-American. Can you talk a little bit about the Heisman? Yeah. I don't think many people know about that.
I don't think they do either.
Yeah.
I kind of be forgetting too sometimes. You know, they just randomly just came and told me one day, like a couple days after the Heisman Award show. They were like, "Do you know that you finished in the top 10?" I was like, "For what?" I didn't even know I was even anywhere near like an honorable mention. I didn't know, and I was like nowhere near like. So no, I didn't know. But yeah, I finished in the top 10, and I guess it was cool, like to be offensive lineman.
Yeah, right. Yep.
You throw me in the mix.
Yeah, I mean, how good you have to be if like you're pretty much never singled out. You know, the O-line's always thought of as a group, but you're so good that you're considered one of the best in all of college football. I mean, that's like, you got to be literally a mountain.
Right, and I definitely appreciate that. Didn't really see that coming at all. It was just like a random conversation I was having with one of the PR guys walking to do something, and he just read it to me like, "Hey, did you know that you just finished top 8?" And I'm looking at him like, "Are you for real? Like, is this for real?"
Yeah. But, you know, and when I think of, you know, Bryant McKinnie, I think of the U, of course. I mean, it's like the first thing any of you guys, you just think of that team. But, you know, when we were looking at your story, the fact that, like, you know, you go from like a high school, you did track and field, you're playing defensive line, but you get to JUCO 70 pounds later. I mean, you switch positions 2 years, like really sort of changing who you are. Can you just talk a little bit about like just that journey from the time that you're, you know, 17, 18-year-old kid?
It was different because, you know, at the time where I came from was a small town in Jersey called Woodbury, New Jersey. And there wasn't anybody that went pro. Like, if they did, it was like in the 80s. And I graduated like 97, so it wasn't like a big thing at the time. So I played basketball. I wrestled to play basketball growing up. Then I got to 9th grade and I wanted to go out for football because I was finally able to go out for football because I was always like too big for my age. It was like different back then. Like,
yeah,
you was a certain age, you had to be a certain weight or something.
Yep.
And I was always like the size of somebody who was probably like 2 or 3 years older than me. So in 9th grade, it didn't matter. I went out, I played, but I played defensive end. I didn't even play my sophomore year, but then I came back, played my junior and senior year. Somebody had sent in game film to University of Iowa, and a guy named Frank Verducci, I always remember him. He was like an O-line coach from Iowa. He came to my high school, and it was after like the signing day and everything was like, school was pretty much over. And he was looking for the running back who was a year behind me, Lamar Sturdivant. And then he also asked about me. And then they were, "Where is he at?" And they was like, "Oh, he's here." Like, they said, "What's his plans?" He was like, "Might go to community college. We don't really know." And he was like, "Oh, I'm interested in him." So then they brought him to me, and he was like, we're out of scholarships. You know, they gave out their scholarships for the year. He was like, but he wants to move me to offensive line. And I'm looking like, I don't. My favorite player at the time was Reggie White. So I'm like, I don't even know the offensive lineman. Because if you think about it, they only call offensive linemen out if they jump off sides.
That's right. They do something wrong. Yeah. I don't want to be one of those guys, right?
I don't want to make a sack and celebrate. So they convinced me, and then my mom was like, you know, go to the JUCO free education. They'll give me a scholarship there. So it was in Scranton, Pennsylvania, called Lackawanna. I went up there for a visit, and then the guy was like, you know, Coach Duda. He was telling me how he would want me to play offensive line, and I was like, okay. I was like kind of going along with it, and then when I realized I really got there, I was trying to change his mind. Like, you should just let me play defensive line. And he's just like, no, you know, you're like 6'8". You know, people are going to just cut block you all the time. And so, no. I said, I'm okay. I'll just jump over him. Like, you know, I was trying to figure it out. He's like, just trust me. You'll just last a lot longer if you just play offensive line, this and other. And I was like, okay. So I did that. And the guy who I had to go against when I first got there, his name was Nate Russ. They called him Cowboy. He was a JUCO All-American. So he coming back for his second year. He was All-American. And it's like, listen, I'm like 245. And he weighed more than me. He like 260. And I'm trying to learn left tackle, which I'm not left-handed. So it's like I'm learning to use, like, and be in a left-handed stance. This guy's an All-American come running off the side. Like, I was having headaches. I was like, oh, my God, do I really want to do this? Like, so it's like me in training camp going through this with this guy, like, kicking my butt every day. Mm-hmm. And then what's funny is when I first started football, my grandma liked me playing basketball, but my mom liked me playing football. My grandma was like, "Oh, you're not gonna like it. You're gonna quit. You go back to basketball." So I always stayed with basketball because I kept hearing that in the back of my head.
Yeah.
Like, so even when I was getting my head beat in of him keep running into me, I was like, "Oh, I'm sick of this." And then I hear her, "I told you ain't gonna like it. You're gonna quit." So it's like, just keep going. So
Yeah.
I kept going, and then one day it was like a light bulb went off, and like I was just able to block him. And then my coach was like, "Do it again," and it was like, you know how before a game you got to go against the defense and like in warm ups and stuff, and he made me do it like 4 times, and I like blocked him off 4 times. I was like, "Listen, we got a game.
Right.
You keep making me go. Like it's a whole like line of group of us that's supposed to go, but it's like you're trying to make sure I can block this guy." Like, and he was like, "Oh my god!" Like it was like he was excited. Like, and then the other guy was getting frustrated and mad, but it was like, you know, the roles kind of started reversing. Like you had a whole month and some change of just wearing me out, and it's like I'm eventually gonna see him keep figuring out what you're doing and watching and learning, because offensive line wasn't my thing. So the roles finally turned, and then now it's like you can no longer beat me. So I would give him a lot of credit because he was the person who, if it wasn't for him being so good, would have made me made me kind of step up and have to learn. So
yeah, if you look at like your career, like how, you know, do you think that was like the aha moment? Because you go against him who's an All-American, then you go to you go to you who essentially is All-Americans as well.
Right.
So like your whole life at playing
I kept
tackle,
always
you were always
like
going against the best.
players,
Yeah.
And then even when I got to even a certain part of my career when I was in Minnesota, then you had Jared Allen over there who came and he was making me like better. We were making each other better. And then even when I got to Baltimore, Terrell Suggs. So I always had like the elite guys who I could get to practice against who would make me like better, like for, you know, game days and stuff.
Yeah, and some people look at it as like, damn, I got to go against these guys. But I think if you flip the ego a little bit, it's like, all right, well, I can actually go against these guys, and the game's
thing about
easy.
it is like even with Jared and Suggs, like we would talk about. They would ask me questions of what is it you're looking for? What am I doing? And I ask them questions like, well, what are you doing? And they're like, I'm trying to get to this certain point, and if you beat me there, then I'm gonna do a counter move inside. So we were learning from each other, you know. So, and I would just tell them things. I said, I'm just patient. I said, because you got to come to me. Like we would just exchange notes.
Exactly.
So it kind of helped everybody. So okay, back to JUCO. So I finally started playing. Then I ended up becoming a JUCO All-American. Another thing that I learned from JUCO was like my coach always said, you can't make the club in the tub. And that means like you can't make a team if you're always in the training room. So I kind of always try to stay away from the training room, which carried over to my career because I never missed any games due to injury or anything. I just played through some things. Now I played through a lot of things I had to find out later on, like a broken ankle that I thought was a high ankle sprain. I found out after I retired when I had to do all my assessments for the NFL. They told me I had broke my ankle, and I was like, I didn't never break my ankle. And then I remembered when I broke my ankle. It was just explained to me as a high ankle sprain that I never got an x-ray. We just assumed it was a high ankle sprain. So,
yeah, didn't you put something too on your Instagram about you never wore gloves for a long time and you definitely
that was
beat up your
another
hands?
thing. And like, I wish somebody would have told me earlier because I always like to be able to feel like I had my fingertips out. So I just put tape around my fingers, and because I dislocated my fingers a few times, I would just tape my fingers together, like the two fingers, you know, together. And I would never wear gloves, but my hands would be so like beat up sometimes and sore from just constantly punching and doing all that type of stuff. But when I finally started wearing gloves towards the end of my career, it made it a lot better because of all the cushioning and padding that it saved my hands. Like my hands felt a lot better. I used to have to dip my hands in a little hot wax in the training room just to kind of like make it feel like a little better. But I wish somebody would have told me way earlier to put on some gloves and just cut out the fingertips like I did.
Can't make the club
like a
in the
real
tub.
like I had to do everything like how it really was. I wanted to know how it really felt to like I didn't need anything to be masking. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I like that saying. Can't make the club in the tub. I like that. I think it's a good message for at any level too, is that if you're gonna sit in the tub the whole time or sit in the training room,
right.
You know,
so when I got to Miami, I looked at those guys because, you know, at the JUCO, all we have like 2 trainers that basically taped your ankles, but they didn't know how to we didn't have like stem and ice and stem and all this type of treatments. But when I got to Miami, like the guys were in the training rooms a lot, like getting stuff done. Almost to me, I would look like they were being pampered. And I'm like, oh gosh, like let me just come in here and get taped and I'm out of here. Like this is not where I need to be. So I looked at it different when I got to Miami. I feel like I came with a tougher mindset. Like this is not where I'm going to go. Only time I go over there is like I'll get adjustments because the chiropractor will come like once a week. But no, so I always kind of stayed out of the training room unless I really needed to be in there for something.
Yeah, it's that old school blue collar mentality of just tape me up and I'll do what I got to do. I'm not going to sit here.
Yeah,
and,
pretty much.
Which, like, you look at it nowadays, it's like guys are all, like, they almost have to be too precautionary of taking care of small injuries so they don't turn into big injuries. But
right.
And then of course you look at it as like, well, is it you're flirting with toughness and like trying to stay healthy, and there's always that fine line of like when you should. So I give you a ton of credit just being able to get in there, get your hips aligned, and good to go.
Yeah.
Yep.
I didn't get anything out there.
So let's talk about the draft a little bit. You go 7th overall to Minnesota. Can you talk about that day in particular of getting drafted and what it was like for you and your family?
Did you have to buy a jacket?
I was almost late. They had to break into my room that morning because Julius Peppers and I decided to go out the night before. And a female rapper at the time, her name was Foxy Brown, her brother Gavin.
Yep.
Took us out to like 3 different places. And back then the draft was like at noon. So it was like we didn't get into like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. And we had been out. So it was like if the draft's at noon, they try to wake you up at like, I don't know, 10 or something like that. We're getting in at 5. And I heard them knocking, but I was like getting up. And they broke in my room. I had the door locked on. I was like, they got in here, and I heard the man come to the door. He was like, oh, the way I was laid across the bed, he probably felt like something was like something wrong with me. But I can hear him. And he was like, oh my gosh. He tried to radio to somebody, said, I'm up. He was like, oh, I thought you were in here like passed out or something. And I was like, no, I'm up.
I'm out cold, right? Yep.
Let me get up. I got up. And then I made the van. They had like a little shuttle to take you over. I made it. I looked around. I realized I didn't see Julius on there. He came in like, he missed it, basically. We left without him. He came in like, I want to say like 10 or 15 minutes before the draft even started. He came into like the little green room where we was at. And I'm looking at him like, boy, he said, I couldn't get up. I said, me either, but they broke in my room. Like, he said somebody finally came and got him too. But so yeah, we like barely made it. He was the second pick of the draft.
Yep.
So it was like we barely even made it.
And that's crazy.
Now I was thinking like at the time it had me like going 2 different places possibly. Really like 3. It was saying, oh, you might go 4 to Buffalo, you might go 5 to San Diego, you might go 7 to Minnesota. So I didn't really know. So once we got past 4, then we got past 5, then I was like, I don't know what Kansas City needs. Then there was just like Minnesota. So first thing I thought was like, what's in Minnesota? I thought like Mary Tyler Moore. I feel like Prince. I was just trying to think about like this different stuff that's in Minnesota. Like, okay, you got Prince, you got Mary Tyler Moore. Like, I don't know anything about Minnesota. That's what I thought about first. And then I just went out there, and then you had to, get your jersey and take the pictures. And then you had to go straight to do interviews. And then I think I was a little mad that the boy Mike Williams went before me because I feel like I was better than him. So I was like, Buffalo, anytime I play y'all gonna like, I probably said something crazy like that. But then I had to, after the interviews, you had to go straight to Minnesota and go there and do interviews and everything. And then I was able to come back the next day. Like, so since it was so early, they had like flights already ready. Like, as soon as I did my interview in New York, I had a flight ready. I couldn't really grab too much stuff and put you in a limo, take you to the airport. You go straight to Minnesota to arrive there to do an interview, and then you leave that next day, that Sunday, and you get to go back home. Whatever.
So that 24 hours, you were working off of like 6 hours of sleep total, right?
Yeah. Slept on that flight there. That flight was like 3 hours.
Yeah.
So I slept on that flight there, but I was barely rested. It's like me and Julius, you probably look at our pictures, you probably look tired and a little crazy.
Now, so you go to Minnesota. In essence, you kind of replace Corey Stringer. So I know that you never played alongside him, but do you have any idea of like, did his, tragic death just from, I really don't know if it was exhaustion, if it was dehydration, but do you know if they sort of changed the protocol and like, were they so much more cautious with you coming in and how guys were allowed to practice?
A little bit. Well, the first year, I don't know because I missed training camp. Remember, I held out like 98 days.
Yeah.
And then I was suing the NFL for collusion and all that stuff. So that got resolved. So I missed training camp. I missed the first 8 games. And then I came. So My second year is when I was able to go through training camp, and they were kind of like handling things different. Like you had to take like this pill, and then they would stand behind you to see if your body temperature was like, or if you were overheating or anything like that. It was something to do with this big old pill. And like this little scanner thing, they would come behind players just to check to see, like, I guess what their body levels are or something.
Body temperature, yeah.
Yeah. So they were doing that. And then luckily for me, a lot of times when I was in Mankato, it wasn't never really that high. It was like 77, like things like that. But they were definitely giving more water breaks, and it definitely was a thing of being aware. And it was on my mind too, because I was like, I don't know what in the world they was doing up here.
Yeah, right.
This man, you know what I mean? And who dropped the ball, but I'm gonna make sure I'm always vocal and let them know, hey, I'm not feeling well. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Now, so you go there and it is, Dante Culpepper, Randy Moss show. By the time you leave, it's the AP show. Can you just talk a little bit about what it was like seeing kind of two extremes of an offense? You get the stud receiver versus the stud running back, and like how did the prep sort of change from having to be this pass blocker to a mauler out there?
Yeah, it was definitely more of a passing situation when I first got there. And I felt like they were a great combination, but then I think those two kind of started having like little differences too. But coming in, I already knew who Randy Moss was. What's funny is one of my questions at the draft, they were like, so name 3 players. I don't know why this person asked me this. Name 3 players on the Minnesota Vikings. All I could name was 2. Randy Moss. And I don't know a third player. I didn't know a third one. It's like, you can't think of 3 players on the Vikings. And I couldn't. But, everybody knew those 2. And it was like great. And me and Randy kind of clicked right away. Actually, me and Dante all kind of like clicked right away. I guess me and Dante because I'm protecting this blind side.
Yeah, right.
And Moss just because Moss, I just like, it's like all the big guys, like Dave Dixon, me, like everybody that's big is like, he's just like becomes friends with. So they were both cool, and it was a great experience to be around both of them, especially coming in. And then when AP came, he was like a machine. Like he felt like he was like a little robot, and it was like I've never just seen anybody like him. I seen it coming. Like, with Chester Taylor was there first at the running back, but then when he came in, I said once he learned everything in his plays down, he's gonna take his job, and you could slowly just see it happening. And everything about him was like a machine. Like he acted like he was a machine. Like, and he would even try to you be wrestling something like try to want to wrestle me. Like all that type.
Yeah, I mean his size and speed alone is pretty big for a running back, right?
Strong too.
Yeah, and I mean it's part of why he's still playing too, right? I mean the fact that he's his age as a running back and still like ripping off runs like he did last year too. It's a testament to his workout and and just overall him being an absolute monster. Yeah.
And then I remember like his handshake. He had we did like a segment on ESPN about his handshake too. How he had like a real firm handshake.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he was like a little machine.
Yeah, just speaking of like ageless wonders, though, towards the end of your time there in Minnesota, Brett Favre comes in. Blocking for him versus like Culpepper, and I mean, there's other guys like Gus Frerotte. How much different was it having someone like Brett Favre? Which no disrespect to Dante Culpepper at all, but I mean, Brett Favre is just a legend. Before Brady and Manning, like he was considered maybe one of the top 2-3 best ever.
Brett Favre did things that would benefit everybody. Like he has seen this, like there's only been so many stunts that you could throw at somebody that now becomes, and he's seeing everything faster and faster. He would pump fake sometimes, like he's about to throw and make our defender jump up, and then that would allow us to push him because he's not really throwing the ball, and then knock the defender down. Like he did things that like helped you as offensive line at times. He was changing up snap counts. He was even changing up plays. Him and I remember one game, I think we was playing Detroit, and we was in Minnesota, and Brad Chisholm was trying to take him out and was telling Tavares to go in, and Tavares wouldn't go in unless Brad agreed to come out, and Brad said he wasn't coming out, so Tavares wouldn't go in. So Brad, it was like a whole thing on that sideline, them arguing back and forth. He was trying to get Brett out the game. We ended up winning the game, but he was trying to sit Brett out, and Brett was like, he's not coming out, and he was telling Tavares go in. Tavares was like, I can't go in. Like so it was like a whole thing over there. And he is the reason probably why that was that first year he got there was the best record I had as a Viking. We went 12-4. We went to the NFC Championship against New Orleans. That was the best season because the players all kind of rallied around him and not really the coaching. You know, so and he would get out there and he would change the plays too. So if you feel like this ain't gonna work, like, you know, he had the knowledge to say like this ain't gonna work, and he would change plays sometimes after in the huddle. So I think Brad didn't care for that sometimes, but majority of the time it was working. It might be some time where it didn't work. He's like, who said to change that? But majority of the time it worked. So
yeah, what are you gonna do if it works?
He was the best quarterback I played with.
Yeah, we had Sage Rosenfels on, who was a backup in Minnesota. I don't know if he crossed paths with you or if he came there after. Sage Rosenfels?
Sage.
So No, the backup quarterback.
The name sounds familiar, but we had another one named Rosenthal too, so that's one thing. But I can't remember.
Well, I mean, Sage would tell us that, you know, Brett would look at the defensive line and he would be so sure that someone was blitzing that he would shift the entire way that the line was blocking. And if he was wrong and gambled, someone would be coming free at him. But Brett would take that gamble because he was so sure of himself.
And that's true. And that's what I'm saying. Majority of the time he was right, but he would see a lot of things or blitzes and everything. So he would kind of know where stuff was coming from too.
Yeah.
Now, he's smart.
Yeah.
But that's how I look at Tom Brady now. It's like, once you get a certain level and age in your career, you've seen everything. So your reaction now, you'll be able to pick up things faster. So it's like you know how to get the ball out faster. You know how to just kind of manage the whole game better.
Yeah, and you got to imagine Breeze is up there too, right? I mean, so many years in the league, so many passing yards under your belt. It's just sort of like you got it now. You're a master. Right. You know, I wanted to jump a little bit further now to your time in Baltimore. You know, you get a chance to, of course, win a Super Bowl there, but I mean, you get to do it with Ed Reed, you know, and I know that you didn't play with Ray at university, who's before your time there, but, you know, what was it like to not end your career, because of course you did play after that, but I mean, to kind of come full circle, national championship for the U, now you get to win again with Ed, and like you get a chance to get
and that's what we always said. Me and Ed always said that. It was like, that we make a good team because we win championships together. But so coming back to 2011, the Vikings, they wanted to restructure my contract, and I kept saying I wanted to leave, right? And people were like, "Oh, you're a lifer, you're gonna be here for life." I'm like, "No, I ain't." So every player, at a certain point where they want to like kind of get a fresh start and go somewhere else, just like what Antonio Brown is going through now, just trying to find a way to get out. So when they came to me we was in training camp, they came to me in the dorms. They were like, "Oh, we're gonna restructure your contract, this and other," and I was like, "You got to agree to it." And I was like, "No, I don't want to." And they're like, "Oh, no, we're going to have to." And I was like, "I don't want to." So they're like, "If you don't, we're going to have to let you go." You know, it's crazy, right? My mom was on a cruise somewhere. She wasn't like able to get in touch with. They tried to call her, and I guess, and like try to like want her to talk me into like restructure my contract, but they couldn't get in touch with her because her phone wasn't working. She was on a cruise. That's how like it's crazy how things happen. So they couldn't get a hold of her, and I was like, and they came back to me again. They were like, "We really don't want to have to let you go, but if you don't agree to do this, then we're going to have to let you go." And I was like, "That's fine." So the head coach comes, Rick Spielman comes. They all come to my dorm room, and they're basically like trying to convince me. They're like, "We're trying to call your mom," and I'm looking at them like, "Y'all trying to call my mom? Like for what?" So they're like trying to talk me into like agreeing, like, "You'll still make this. You just have to make these incentives." Like they're just still trying to like convince me. And it's like, look, this is my out. No.
Yeah, right. Yep.
So okay, what are we doing? So I'm like, well, we're gonna have to let you go to this. So they let me go. Then they're like, "Oh, he gained weight and this, that, and others." Like, say what you gotta say, but I'm out of here. So I get my stuff and I go home. So now it's like training camp was only like in for like 2 or 3 days. So immediately as soon as I get back to Florida, a player, I forget his name, he went to University of Miami too. He hit me up first and was like, "Hey, Reed and Ray Lewis gonna hit you up." And I was like, "That's fine." So then he gave Ray my number. Ray was like, "Hey, I'm gonna get you up here, this, that, and the other." And I was like, "Wait a minute, give me a second. I don't even know. I got to look at y'all team. I don't even know where I fit in at. And I was like, I'm not playing right tackle. Y'all got the blind side up there. So wait, let me weigh out my options. And let me miss a couple more days of training camp. So and then Ed Reed hit me up, was like, yo, you need to come here, this and the other. I said, okay, I'm looking at the roster now. I'm trying to see where I could fit in. And I said, I'm not playing right tackle. I've never played that before. And he was like, don't worry about that. He said, Ray gonna get on and he up there talking to Ozzy. So I'm like, all right. So then Ray hits me like a couple of days. He's like, all right, you coming here. I told to Ozzy, get yourself ready, prepared to be up here. I said, well, what position? Because I'm not playing. He was like, no, he gonna move over. I said, you sure? They got a whole movie about him being the blind side. Like, yeah, he gonna move over. You gonna play left tackle, this and the other. I like, all right. So it was like a day go by, and I guess Ray probably looking like, why isn't anything done? So now he called me back. You need to call your agent to tell him this and other. I'm like, don't Ozzy need to call my agent? He's like, they're trying to get everything done. So all right. So then probably like a couple days later, it gets done, and I'm in Baltimore. And then Ray's like, you gonna be by me? I'm basically, my locker was like, it was like me, Ray Rice, and then Ray Lewis. So we by him, and he'd tell me like all these different things. Honestly, when I got there, he taught me how to really take care of my body better. Believe it or not, which is my 10th year in the league. But in Minnesota, nobody really like explained some of those things. Like, I knew to get in the cold tub to bring your legs back, but like Ray made me buy a juicing machine, like all this stuff, like to become like more like aware of what you're putting in and things like that.
Yeah.
So when I got with him, he kind of taught me all that stuff. But in Minnesota, it was kind of like, whatever. You just worked out and did whatever. So even in Baltimore that first year, we got to the AFC Championship, and then we lost to New England. And then the second season come back, the second season we come back, this is how these people be cheap. So I grade out the highest for our preseason, right? And as soon as we get into the regular season, it's like 2 or 3 days before the regular season. Here we go, this incentive stuff.
Oh, yeah.
They called me up there like, oh, we're gonna do this, the incentives. I'm like, what? So I'm just like, okay, whatever. So
now, what were the incentives? It's like sacks allowed, the games played, things like that.
Amount of time that I played.
Oh, okay. Time on the field. Yep.
Yeah. So now it became, if I play a certain amount of plays, I get a certain incentive. Of course, they held me back from that. So it's like, oh, now it's like like a couple days before the game, it's like, we're going to do this no huddle thing more. So we don't know if you'll be able to keep up. So we're going to have somebody else do it. So it was like, what? How great that I was hired everybody, but now y'all just try to change the whole concept of how our offense is run. It's going to be like a no huddle thing. So now it becomes like, it's a younger player that they throw in there, and then they let him like kind of like start majority of things. And it's like every once in a while they put me in, or I'll start every once in a while at like almost like an extra tight end position type of thing. And then we get to the end of the season pretty much, and it was like, I think we pretty much was going to make the playoffs. So now it's like to the point where it don't matter how much I play now, I'm not going to be able to make the incentive. So now I'm starting. So I think I just went that game just like frustrated, and I just like had a really good game. And it was just like, it must was a serious conversation up there, because when I tell you, I know I played at a really high level, because it was just like, I was kind of fresh too still, because I didn't have to go through the whole season, like every play. So I was playing at a really high level, and they had a meeting after they watched that film, and it was like, how is he not
playing consistently?
Starting? Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? So the next game was our first playoff game. So then they done switched out and then moved the boy, and now put me back in there for the whole playoff thing. Now it's like, I got all the hardest people to block first off. So I got Dwight Freeney the first week. And then the second week I got Von Miller and the other one, he ended up being my teammate. Why I keep forgetting his name? Well, the other one, then you got New England, and then after that in the Super Bowl you had Justin and Alden Smith. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, y'all want to put me in for the hard part. but they ain't let me get my bonus.
Yeah, right. You're not gonna pay me though.
Right. So I ended up doing all that. So we ended up making it through and winning the Super Bowl and things like that. So yeah, that was a great experience. The Super Bowl made me feel like I was back in college, like you went to like a bowl game.
Mm-hmm.
Because you travel around, you do everything like you're like in a college bowl game, pretty much.
Yeah, with all the media and the press and everything.
Yeah, and it was in New Orleans, so it was nice. And then basically it was like Beyonce concert along with a football game. That's like a lot of people were saying.
Yeah,
the lights went out, so we had a very dramatic Super Bowl. The power went out.
Yeah, I was gonna ask that too. Like, what was that like? Because never mind the halftime show where you got to sit in there for 45 minutes. What was that like with the lights and power going off?
Our halftime used to be like 12 minutes or something.
Yeah,
but because the Super Bowl was like a 30-minute halftime, and then we had the ball when we came back out, but Jacoby ran it back for a touchdown from the kickoff. So we were still sitting on the field, and then when the power went out, the defense was on the field. So we was like sitting down for like over an hour as an offense, not doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then the power went out. I think that was out for like a good 30 minutes or so. And you heard something go, like you heard something like zap out, like you heard it. Yep. And then it started like just going off in sections. But I didn't know the whole thing was gonna go out because you like see like a couple sections go out, but then it kept going. It was like, what's going on? Like,
yeah, right. I mean?
You're looking around, you see like everything's shutting off, and we're like, what? And they're like, and we had a big lead at the time. We like somebody ain't happy in Vegas.
Right? Isn't it always a conspiracy, right? I mean,
yeah. Right. So it was like the power just went out. So then, the momentum kind of changed a little bit once the power got back on, and they kind of got it on a roll a little bit. And then us as an offense, it was like we had to kind of like try to regain some type of momentum, and it became like a 5-point game when prior to that we had like a 21-point lead or something. But I mean, it was a great experience. We were able to hold on for the win, and we had an after party, and they had like Frankie Beverly and Mays, and Mary J. Blige performed, and Jay-Z and Beyonce, the whole Destiny Child, her mom, and all of them, they were there as well. I took a picture with them that night, and then we had like our ring ceremony and things like that. So it was nice.
Cool. And then, of course, at the end of your career, you're able to go to Miami and play in front of the Miami fans again.
I came back the following year, so I basically my contract was over with Baltimore. It was on 2 years, and then so I went out I visited the Dolphins, and then I flew out to San Diego, the Chargers, and I actually liked Phillip Rivers. He took the time. He told them like, no, let me show him around, and he walked with me and talked to me and was like telling me how to come out there, and I felt bad that I didn't go. Mm-hmm. Because I actually liked him, and I liked that he took the time out to like talk to me and really tell me that he wanted me to come. But then Baltimore came back, so it was just kind of like more of a comfort thing. Like, well, I've already been in Baltimore. I'm kind of familiar. Mm-hmm. And not realizing that all those guys wasn't coming back, like Anquan Bolden and then Ed Reed didn't come back and all that stuff. If I would have known, like, it would have been a big change like that, I probably just went to San Diego. Yeah. But went there, and then I was playing out there, and eventually at some point my knee kept bothering me. I kept having like my knee kept swelling up after certain games, and I kept asking my knee checked, and then I finally got an MRI, and they just told me it's like wear and tear because it's been 12 years, whatever. So then I go to the Dolphins, and they looked at my thing. They were like, you got a torn meniscus? I was like, no. You would have thought y'all would have checked that out. I guess you would traded for me,
right?
Like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So they all looking at each other like, what? They send him here. He has a torn meniscus. So they're like, what do you want to do? You want to have the surgeon be out 4 to 6 weeks, or we could do some stuff where, you could still play on it and then have surgery at the end. I like, well, since y'all done traded for me, I might as well just, play, get through the season, and then, just worry about surgery at the end. And then they were like, okay. So, I would come in there in the training room and just get stuff like done every night if I need it. And they gave me like some medicine just to help with inflammation and stuff. And that was pretty much it. And then, my 5th day there, that's when the whole bullying thing happened, which I was like,
that's right. Yeah, God. That's right. Yep.
So now everybody in Baltimore come like, what you got going on down there? I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I just got here. So, what was it? Incognito and Martin, Jonathan Martin. Yeah, I thought it was a joke. Like, we were in the training room one day, so we had a Sunday night game, and we had to turn around, had a Thursday game. So we had play Sunday, and we had to come right back in on Monday for practice because we had a Thursday night game. So we're like all like eating because like practice was pushed back like more like later in the night.
Mm-hmm.
So we're eating our dinner, and like all the O linemen were all at the table together, and then Jonathan comes in like late, like we're pretty much done. He comes in and he's like grabbing his food. So Rich is like, "Oh, okay." Well, he's going to go over here. He's going to come put his tray down. He's going to go grab something to drink, and when he comes back to sit down, we're all going to get up. Okay, I feel like it was elementary school, but okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So he does everything that Rich says. He comes, he puts his tray down, he walks over to the machine, gets him something to drink, and he comes down and sits down. And all you hear everybody's chair go, skirt, everybody like, and gets up. Oh, he got pissed. He threw his whole plate of food and stormed out the cafeteria.
No kidding.
I did not know that was going to turn into what we all had to watch on the news.
Yeah,
so, He stormed out the locker room.
Yeah. Now, so you were shocked. I mean, you were shocked when it all came out, right? I mean,
there was going to turn into that.
Yeah, right. Yep.
It's my 5th day there. Like I thought it was like jokes that they play on each other.
Yep. Oh, so you were green to the whole thing. Like you didn't. So you were only 5 days in. Gotcha.
We had an away game that day, the day before, so I knew they sat next to each other on the plane. So I'm thinking they're cool. Like, so he threw his plate and like stuff went to flying, and like everybody was surprised. Like, oh shit! Like what? Like I'm surprised too. Like what the hell is going on?
Yeah, like so it's your 5th day there, so you don't know about what's happening in the past. Yeah, right.
We put our trays away and we go in the locker room like to see like where's he at. We think he's at his locker. So they're like, where's Jonathan? Somebody's like, oh, he came here and grabbed his keys and stormed out the locker room. So we're like, oh shoot. But we still had practice that night, and he's the right tackle now because now I came. They moved him from left and they moved him to right. So we're like, somebody's gonna have to go upstairs and tell somebody or try to get a hold of him because we're getting closer to our little practice time and he's not here. So somebody finally went upstairs, had to break the news. So then they went calling and looking for him and couldn't find him, all that type of stuff. And then I guess that's when he came up with his story about, I guess, being harassed or whatever was going on. And then it just blew up from there. And it was just like, oh gosh. So I feel like from there, between me having the torn meniscus and not knowing, and then that foolishness in that locker room, I was over it. I was over it. So I was like, it's been fun, guys. I got a ring last year. I don't know what else I could possibly do, but I think I'm out. I played that season, and I was just like, all right, I'm done.
Yeah. What a career! Like what a career! You think about everything you've done from like the U to winning a Super Bowl to playing with Brett Favre, Randy Moss, and then that caps off your career. Like I'm sure you got a million stories that you can make your own podcast about and just talk about because, oh man, the experiences you've been through is unbelievable.
Yeah, it's been a lot of different situations.
So.
Yeah, but so it's been a couple of years now since you've been playing. And I love going to your social media because it's like a really interesting blend of events that you host, events that you go to. You're doing media. You're talking about sports. You're posting stuff about sports. Repent. I mean, you got your hand in so many different things. I'm sure I missed half of them right there. But how have you gone about just sort of like figuring out that space? Well, like, what do I do now? And I mean, you've been able to do a bunch of different things. But what was your thought process?
I was doing a lot. I was doing some things already while playing. Y'all probably don't even know it, but in 2009, I had I have a music label, and I was really focusing on an artist. And I put his album out in 2009. It got nominated for 3 Grammys, and I couldn't make it to the Grammys because I was in the playoffs. But so I was doing things already, preparing myself for it afterwards because I knew I wanted to keep the same energy and keep being active and doing things. And what's funny is the NFL has like a program where like some guys are kind of depressed, after they retire, is because a lot of them only identify themselves as a football player and they don't really try to do other things that interest them. While I was kind of already doing that while I was playing, and then as soon as I like left, I kind of already knew what direction I wanted to go into.
A smooth transition, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Where some guys don't. They're like, now what do I do? Like, because they've only been able to identify themselves as a football player. So then now when that's over, they're kind of lost, and they probably need some kind of programs in the NFL to help guys think about like life after, because right now they try to make you. Even when I was doing the music thing, they were like asking me like, "Well, are you focused on football?" I'm focused on football. I know when I can focus on football, and I know I can focus on music. That's why I have an off season. So so it makes some people sometimes when they try to do like other things while they're playing the sport, it makes them always question like their focus. Like even when I watched Venus and Serena, I remember at the time when they were going to school for clothing and things like that, I would hear the media say things like, well, I don't know, maybe they're distracted because they're into fashion now and they're this and that. People know how to juggle their time when they want to
Of
really
course.
do something. So it's like, don't make somebody just only be just one thing because you have more than one gift. So, and that's what I guess some people have to realize is that you're able to do more than just one thing. You have more than one talent. Just right now, this is the main thing that's funding your other talents. You know what I mean? But that should be your main focus. But you still have to know how to have good time management where you're able to do, other things besides just this one thing.
So what are you putting your most energy into right now?
Right now, well, I just had my 7th annual Kick CF charity kickball game. So between that and then the Repent, I'm trying to get the Repent going. I'm getting back into music. I'm kind of putting my energy in a lot of things. And really trying to learn how to take the broadcasting thing to like another level, really learning. Because it's something that kind of fell in my lap. I do CBS sports desk down here in Miami on Sunday nights. And just learning because, they have these boot camps in the NFL, but I always went for music, the Clive Davis Music School. I never went to the broadcasting boot camp thing. So for me to be able for them to give me the opportunity to come on a show and start learning how to do journalism, I just took it as a learning experience, and I asked them to critique me and coach me and tell me how to get better. So I've been kind of focusing on that.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I mean, that's all stuff that I've seen on your page. And so it's interesting to watch you do all these different things. And I mean, it looks like everything's going really well, which is awesome.
Yeah. I don't mind challenging myself. You know how people have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And I'm definitely that person. So I don't mind keep learning and, trying to just, challenge myself to do a lot of different things. I take dance class. I do a lot of things.
Did some tennis back in the day, right? Didn't you do a little tennis with Venus?
I do tennis. Yep, I play tennis. Yeah, Venus, she gave me lessons. I'm supposed to have some coming up soon because they're here at the end of the month for the Miami Open. So they have a little break right after the Miami Open. So I'll probably get to hit with her again. So yeah, I play tennis as well.
Very cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I know we're running a little long on time. I wanted to ask you though, before we get to our gauntlet which is just a couple quick questions, looking back at everything, do you have any piece of advice that you would give your younger self, 17, 18-year-old Bryant?
Definitely wear gloves sooner. That's the main piece of advice I would have told. I would have been so much better if I wore gloves sooner. And then just learning, far as when I got Ray Lewis, when I was saying about learning how to learning what to put in the body. You know what I mean? So nutrition wise, I had a nutritionist at one point, even when I lived in Minnesota, but still staying consistent with it because I might have had it for a couple years and I kind of stopped. So that, and then even stretching and flexibility, things like that, just being on top of all that. Because when I got to Baltimore, they were big on stretching and flexibility, and I was like, Minnesota, you kind of wasn't. It was you stretch, but they had somebody stretch you and all that type of stuff. So just stuff like that.
Flexibility, cool. Nutrition. Yep, that makes sense. Yeah. I mean, that's to complete the athlete, right?
Pretty much.
Be able to have all those. Yep.
All right. Well, Bryant, as promised, we're going to get you out on this. I just got a couple quick questions for you. I need to know what is most important. Is it the number one offense or number one defense?
Listen, when I was in Baltimore, when I was in Minnesota, it was a year where we had the number one offense and the number two at certain points, like 2003 and 2004, we 1 or 2, and our defense was 32. So it's you can put up all their points. I put up 56 points. If y'all allow 57, guess what?
Game over, right?
So I'm gonna say defense. Because you know why? Sometimes defense can score points if your offense is struggling. So if defense really isn't letting up much, I'm gonna say defense because offense, I experienced that in 2003 and 2004. You could be putting up all these numbers and they letting up a whole bunch. It's just
yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Now, did you have one pregame ritual that you always stuck to?
I did. So it was I had a rider. So when I was it started in college. I don't know how to start it. So I always had to have cereal the night before the game. And it's carried over to when I was at the Vikings. So even when we was on road trips, they would make sure my cereal was set to the side.
What kind of cereal are we talking?
It would be like, it had to be like Fruit Loops, or it had to be like Rice Krispies. It was only like 3 or 4 different brands, and it had to be those because it was like sometimes it was the little mini boxes, and it had to be like 4 of them, and it had to be like any of those, and then I had to do that before every game, and then I couldn't order room service. Like if we were at a hotel, like the night before the game, I couldn't order room service because I ordered room service twice and I got injured. Both times I ordered room service. So it's like, I'm not ordering room service anymore. I would say 2 or 3 times. And it was just like, what did you do that you normally do? I order room service. Like, oh, no. I'm not ordering room service no more. I did that once in college and I got hurt. And then I did it 2001, I ordered room service and got hurt in December. I ordered room service. I didn't order room service again until 2007, got hurt. I was like, this is crazy. So I just stopped ordering room service.
Whatever you need, don't go to the front desk, right? That's it.
So I just eat the team snack or whatever else they provide. I don't order room service at all.
Now, of course, as we've talked about, you've had a crazy successful career, but was there ever one coach or one guy you wish you had the chance to play with?
That I wish I had a chance to play with?
Yeah, or for, if it's a coach that you wish you had a chance to cross paths with.
I can't really think about a coach, but I actually liked Coach Tice when he was there, but I feel like he wasn't there with me long enough. Like in 2005 is when he would take time, because he originally was the offensive line coach before he became head coach. He would take time to come in, pull me to the side and give me tips like, just do this. This makes your job easier. Just do this. I understand they're telling you to do this, but I'm telling you just do this. You won't get yelled at by me because I'm your head coach. I'm telling you to block it like this or take these steps to make this easier. So I started doing it, and he helped me get better. But then the following year he was gone because then somebody was saying he was selling tickets. So I wish I was able to keep him a little longer because I liked how he was coaching me, even though he was a head coach, but I still like, and if I would get in trouble, right? If I did something like where I was late or whatever and I was supposed to get fined, he like, well, you have to grade out at this and I won't fine you. So it was kind of like a happy medium. So now I have to go out here and play very well because I know I don't want to pay this fine. So I like that system we had.
All right, I got one last one for you. What's most important? Is it the players or is it the scheme?
Is it the players or is it the scheme?
Yep.
What's crazy is I feel like some schemes work for certain players. So once you take a player sometimes out of the scheme, now it depends. Some players are just good players, but some players just work better in a certain scheme. So it's kind of hard to say because some players are just players. Like when I say players are just good or great at what they do, but in some people maybe just okay, but the scheme fits well for them. And you take them out of that scheme, they're going to struggle other places. So it depends. I'm really
Hey,
good players are going to adapt to anything. But some guys are just guys, and they can just fit a scheme, and the scheme works for them. But if you take them back out of it, they're not going to be as they're not going to come off as good.
Yeah, there's no right or wrong answer.
Okay.
But Bryant, that is it. I can't thank you enough for taking the time with us to go through all of it. We had a great time. I mean, incredible career. And we'd love to have you on again sometime if you want to cover anything else that we might have missed this time.
Okay. Maybe the boat party the next time.
Hey, man. Yeah. That didn't escape me. We have a lot of ammo for next time.
Okay.